Ladies and gentlemen, all right, let's talk about why the Universal Audio AMS NEVE DFC channel strip is an essential part of my VO chain and what it can do for you.
You're listening to the dangerous mind of Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov. No excuses, no BS, no pants.
Microphone maniacs and VO pros out there, it's Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov, and today we're going to talk about the NEVE DFC plugin from Universal Audio. My VO pal Mike wanted to know more about the DFC once I told him that it's an essential part of every VO chain that I use these days. And the reason why is that the DFC, or Digital Film Console, is purpose-built for broadcast. So the DFC is actually a hardware unit. It's an industry standard in broadcast. The DFC console is used at Skywalker Sound. I remember we would mix a 70s show at CBS Radford on a DFC. And it looks like something from NASA because all of the controls are digital. It's a completely digital unit end-to-end. And so Universal Audio, I guess somebody discovered that the chip architecture or something was similar enough in the DFC. I think it uses those Shark chips. It was similar enough to the Universal Audio platform that they were able to completely port the entire software package of the DFC into Universal Audio, into the Apollo. So what you're getting is not a model of the DFC. You're actually getting a DFC, the total full package of software. And it's really killer, and I'll show you why. Okay, so the big thing that I use the DFC for, the most important thing, the thing that really turned me on to it, is the expander gate. Now, that's a really, really important part of my chain, and I'll tell you why. Now, a lot of people will tell you do not put a gate or an expander or anything on your VO. That's kind of old world thinking because these days, production, especially for the stuff I do, like commercials, like radio commercials and like TV commercials, like especially when you're doing like local TV commercials for like Joe's Tire Shop. A lot of commercials these days, you know, like one of the clients I service a lot is one of the big cable companies, national cable companies, because they all have local commercial production units to make more revenue. And so I get booked a lot to do the VO on these spots, you know, like some carpet store that's like in the middle of town, some mom and pop thing. I've done so many mom and pop commercials, right? Well, the thing about those commercials, the thing about radio spots these days, is things are not mixed. Things aren't mixed anymore. Basically, they take your VO and they drop it on a timeline and export, and that's it. So a lot of times, what you have to provide your client, and you have to know this, you have to know what the end user is going to do with your VO. A lot of times, you have to provide them with something that is finished, that is ready to just be dropped in. They don't even EQ. I don't even know if they compress. So one of the things you have to do is make sure that your VO is broadcast ready to go, right out the box. So that's why I remove the background sound, the background noise. And let me show you what the background noise is in my booth on the Soyuz, all right? I'm going to take out the gate. Now, the gate is just a backstop. Now, watch when I take out the expander. You hear that? Now, watch this. Now, I'm going to go and I'm going to take out the filter. All right, so you hear that there is a fair amount of rumble in there. Here, let me turn this up. All right, so there's hiss, there's rumble, there's all kinds of stuff going on. Come on. Trying to make it zero. All right. So this is not necessarily the sound that I want to send out to my clients. So the DFC helps a lot, and I'll show you why. The extensive control that you have over the expander and gate is a lot greater than that which is offered on other universal audio products, per se like channel strips like the SSL or the Neve. They all have nice expander gates, but they don't necessarily do the job well for speech. Now, when you're singing and your vocal track is going to be inside of a mix, you can have your expander and gate just be a little bit imprecise. You can have noise tails on your sound. But when you have noise tails on your sound in VO, it sounds like crap. It just sounds like you don't know how to use your tools. There's a lot of chatter. You know what gate chatter is, right? When you get it and it's off and on, off and on. You get a lot of chatter sometimes when you use those channel strip plug-in expander gate settings. But the Neve DFC is purpose-built for dialogue, for speech, for voiceover. Because when you hear... Hold on. Let me get rid of this noise. It's really bugging the crap out of me. All right. So first, we turn on the expander. And what I love about the expander is you have visual control. And you can see here the knee that I put in. So it's a gentle curve into it, right? And then the depth control, I control that tail. You hear it coming back. Right? And like that, it's gone. So it's simple, and you have obviously attack, release, depth, knee, ratio, and so that your ratio setting is going to control exactly how, let's just call it vertical, like how steep is that cutoff of that noise. And then I throw the gate on there, really low, minus 64, minus 60, as a backstop. And what you get is clean audio. And it sounds natural. And that's the thing. It doesn't sound cut off. It doesn't have a tail on it. It just sounds like I'm in a silent room. And that's what I love about this. It's really useful. For me, I find this to be the best expander gate that you can get for VO. Now, let's talk about a couple of the other things it does. Now, the EQ section is really great. I just happen not to use it. I use the EQ, actually, in the Neve 88RS preamp. I prefer the little bit of coloration that the Neve EQ gives it. Okay? That's just a preference. But the EQ here, right? You can add a little 100 here. It's a little bit too much, right? Maybe widen that a little bit. Yeah, and then all of a sudden I got like more authority in my voice, right? You can add some air to it. Let's add a lot of air, right? So I'm up here, right? So what I like about that is that really it's very much like all of the effects on the DFC. Very transparent, very smooth. Okay? The filter is great because I always filter out below 50. Right? So here it is with the filter off, and here it is with the filter on. It tightens it up. It takes out all the subsonic crap that is going to, make it sound a little less tight, right? So it tightens it up. Then this is interesting, and I really haven't figured out quite how to use it yet because one of the presets here, hold on, watch this. I'm going to copy everything. I'm going to go to this preset. Let me see if I can find it. Some of the presets I'm not crazy about. Like that, I'm not crazy about. No gate, but you can put that in. Some of these presets I'm not crazy about. All right, so here. So it's the de-esser setting. That just sounds terrible, right? So here we go. I'm putting my settings back. So I'm not crazy about the presets on it. But one of the things I've noticed it does is this dynamic EQ here, right? So this filter, the dynamic EQ. What you can do is it will de-ess a little bit, right? I don't know if I really hear it. I got to mess with it more. This thing is so comprehensive, it's so deep that I understand it could be intimidating. But you know what? half the fun for me is getting in and just turning knobs and see what happens, exploring, tinkering. Okay, here's the pièce de résistance as far as I'm concerned. The compression and the limiter. Now, I have compression and limiting on here, and I have it, if you see the gain reduction over here, you might think like, wow, that's a lot of compression. But it's really not. It's really, here we go. Actually, I want to put it really like a 3-to-1 ratio. All right? So 3-to-1 ratio, threshold just below clipping, kind of here. Let's take the limiter off for a second. Now, here it is with the compression on, and here it is with the compression off. Compression on. Let's crank it up. Let's go for like 6-to-1. All right, compression off, compression on. Right? Let's really kill it. Compression off, compression on. Now, how crazy is that? That is some seriously transparent compression. And then I throw the limiter on there just in case I gotta be loud and I gotta really push it. Buy a brand new car today. So if you are really, if you have to emote, if you have to go through a range in what you're doing, you really often need a limiter, especially if you're doing character voice stuff, and often the dynamic range of that will go from a whisper right to a shout. I'm going to be right up here. Sorry. So I'm going to be down here, and then I'm going to shout like crazy. You got to use a limiter, but the problem is a lot of limiters, like especially like the one on the SSL. The SSL channel strip is a really great channel strip, I think, for music, but I think it's a little bit more pop-oriented, the sound of it. And the compression, the dynamic section of the SSL, to me, to my ear, has a very VCA sound to it. And what I mean by that, if you've ever heard an 1176, what an 1176 adds, kind of a little bit of presence. Really, it's not presence. It's really kind of a brightness. It's kind of a forwardness to it. I think that the VCA sound on the SSL has that. So it adds a little color, where this really is very transparent. And again, if I take it out, it's really, yeah. So for broadcast, that's what you want. You don't want it to sound like when your dynamic range changes from low to high, that you're adding something to that sound or any pumping or anything like that. A lot of controls, great stuff. So expander gate, compression, filtering. That's what I use the DFC for, and it works brilliantly. I love this plugin. This is an essential part of my chain. So what do you think? Tell me what you think of the Neve DFC. All right, I want to know. Leave a comment. All right, everybody, until next time. This is Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov, fading to black.